Why are you not getting results? Or why are you not getting the results that you probably want? It's more than likely because you're unfocused, old-fashioned, and confused. That's the hard truth. Look, it's likely that you're one, two, or three of these things. Yeah, I'll be interested at the end when I've explained them a little bit more, whether you say, yeah, actually it's one, it's two, or yeah, strike out, Fred. It's not like you do this stuff on purpose. Of course it's not. But again, what I see is that people, they kind of fall into bad habits. They sort of let things slip a little bit. And before they realize what they're doing is they're really not working in the best possible way that they could be doing to get the results that they want. You're listening to the Sales Today podcast, and I'm your host, Fred Copestake. On this podcast, we explore how sales professionals can develop a modern approach to winning business, the application of virtual selling techniques, how to create meaningful business relationships, and much more. Why not take our free collaborative selling scorecard to see how your sales approach suits today's environment? You'll find a link in the show notes. I want to give plenty of food for thought. So how are we going to do this? Three main areas. Again, keep stuff nice and simple. First bit, we're going to talk about how you are effective or not, because this is the stuff, if we don't get it right, it's going to cause people stress. We do not want to be stressed. Second part, we'll be talking about getting up to date. What I'm finding is if we're not doing the right things now, it's not only not working, but we're actually driving customers away. Not good. And then the last part, we're talking about getting more aligned in what we're doing. To say the whole situation now is a little bit confusing, might be a bit of an understatement. So let's just think about, how we can be aligned to doing the stuff that really works. I'll share some scenarios and I'll give you some steps in how you can get right up to date with modern selling. So who am I? So yeah, my name is Fred Copestake. I've had quite a career in sales. I mean, over the last 22 years, I've been around the world 14 times, worked in 36 different countries and trained over 10,000 salespeople. That has been a real privilege, a lot of fun. But what it's also allowed me to do is to start to identify some of the challenges that salespeople have. As a result of that, it put me in the position where I could write my first book, Selling Through Partnering Skills, which helps address some of these similar mistakes, some of these bad habits that salespeople have fallen into. One of the things I could see is that sales is really evolving faster than some of us think. And so salespeople need to make the shift, need to sort of close that gap between what customers need us to do and what we're actually doing. And that gap's growing. This was published in 2020, same time as you know what. And so I saw these changes and these gaps starting to grow even further. The adaptations salespeople need to make to keep bang up to date are getting even bigger. That's why I wrote my second book. There are people about helping salespeople stay relevant. And I'm very pleased to say that went to #1 on Amazon. So I'm going to be channeling some of the things out of that into what I'm talking about today. In a nutshell, if you wanted the 10-second version of what I'm about, it's all about having good people doing good things in a good way. That's how you could kind of summarize me in one line. Can I be blunt and honest with you as we go through this? Can I be blunt and honest? Why are you not getting results? Or why are you not getting the results that you probably want? It's more than likely because you're unfocused, old-fashioned, and confused. That's the hard truth. Look, it's likely that you're one, two, or three of these things. Yeah, I'll be interested at the end when I've explained them a little bit more, whether you say, yeah, actually it's one, it's two, or yeah, strike out, Fred. It's not like you do this stuff on purpose. Of course it's not. But again, what I see is that people, they kind of fall into bad habits. They sort of let things slip a little bit. And before they realize what they're doing is they're really not working in the best possible way that they could be doing to get the results that they want. And certainly when we're under a bit of stress, when we're under difficult times, like we are now, we're under pressure, the brain starts to do weird things. We can't think right. We go into that freeze, fight, flight mode where we can't think properly, and we kind of end up throwing good effort after bad effort. And so we're not making the difference that we want to. Again, my job is to help flag up some of these things that you might catch yourself doing. It can be a little bit uncomfortable, but when you know, you can do something about it. So we'll move on. In part one, what I'm going to talk about is busy, busy, busy. So I give little labels to these three main challenges that I see. The last element, the last kind of big challenge that I see, I'm using these three big buckets, if you like, to capture quite a lot of the things that I see going wrong. And this is having the muddled mindset. So this is all about being misaligned. Where I tend to see this, whereas the other ones could be a bit more individual salespeople, I think the organization has got a lot to play with this, a lot to do with this. The way it can pan out is that the organization says, we're consultative, we're customer focused, we provide solutions, we work with our customer, their best interest, blah, blah, blah. And they actually not blah, blah, blah. They're like that for most of the time. But then we get to the end of the month, end of the quarter, end of the year, and suddenly it's get out there and sell stuff. So we go from being consultative to being transactional. Salespeople are focusing on customers to suddenly start giving discounts. And it's like weird for the salesperson who's not really sure how it is they're supposed to operate. It becomes quite confusing. The brain kind of goes, it's like, I'm supposed to be working with them and problem solving, or am I just trying to push stuff here? Not sure. It's not a great position to be in for anyone. The managers, it makes it hard. Do they coach? Do they look at spreadsheets? It's very, very weird, but we can deal with it. I mean, all these things we can deal with. So again, another little story, customer I work with, Brindisa. My namesake, as it happens, brindis in Spanish is a toast. Cheers, chin chin, which is why Brindisa called themselves that. They are importers of Spanish fine food. Now, I know I don't have favorite customers, but I definitely have a customer where I've got the favorite lunch. It's awesome when we go there. It's interesting how these guys have developed. So it started off with the founder, Monica, who was importing some Spanish hams and just a couple of products, taking them to the top restaurants, I think one deli. But the business grew. It grew quite fast. And then they ended up dealing with more restaurants, more delis, more types of deli, and then supermarkets and different sorts of sale. So we've got different sorts of salespeople involved with different sorts of selling, with a higher level of complexity, more sophistication, then getting involved with some professional buyers. And so the bigger team with the managers had to respond and make sure they're doing the right things in the right times, which was a bit of a challenge. But again, it's stuff that we can do when we start to think with clarity, use coaching, and then be confirmed in the best way to work. Yeah, so the organization has got to set out, this is how we do stuff, and stick to it. So then the managers, they can go into coaching mode to help people get better at what it is they're doing, can't be the best themselves. And then when the salesperson knows that that's how they should be operating, they can be way more confident, and they can go ahead and act in the right way. Yeah. So successful companies will be all over this, and they'll have a framework. So a suggested framework, and this is the one that I developed when I was pulling partnering skills that I've talked about on one hand, with the sales best practice from what's gone before on the other hand, and knitting them together. So we've got something that people can structure the way they work. It works in different sorts of sales. As I say, I work with a series of different clients, and so we can see that this stuff works for them. That was the idea of why I wrote it into the book. I'm going to talk you through the model. I'm going to again go through quite quickly, and I'm just going to give you a couple of questions that you can ask yourself. Again, to get you to reflect, and this is all about thinking, okay, I can do this bit better. I can do this bit. I can tweak this bit. So the model is value, VALUE. Each of these phases, again, areas which you can build best practice around. So the V part is validate. V for validate. And this is all about thinking about, is this the right kind of business for me to be going after? Qualification in old terms, if you like. And so the thing to do here is to ask yourself, am I working with the right people? Am I going after the right sort of business here? Is this where I should be putting my time and effort, my focus? And the kind of the imaginary, the dream state we want to be in is like, can you imagine if every day you're getting up to work with people that you knew you could create real impact with and who wanted to work with you to do it. That's why I picked the picture of the dancers, the tango. It takes two to tango. That's what we're trying to do here. We're picking out the right people to operate with. Because then we can spend time as we align. A is for align. This is homework. This is prep. This is thinking about, okay, so what am I going to be going with? How can I understand them well enough to be able to do things that's going to make a difference for them? Am I going to arrive with insights, perspectives, things that they're going to find interesting because it's going to help them to think? Yeah, so again, the imaginary state, the place we want to be is that people are reaching out to you because that they know when they talk to you, you help them make sense of things. Yeah, that's what I've said already, that the salesperson is sense maker, helping people to think, really important way to be working. Because what that means is that when we go into the L for leverage, we leverage that knowledge, we leverage that information to have better, grown up, decent conversations. People value interactions with us. You know, imagine people are saying to you, thank you, that was an excellent meeting. They want you back because the things that you're doing, they are thinking that this is somebody I want to work with. And that's how we build that part of that model, having great meetings, great structure, because the work we've done before. Which means we can then move into the U of underpin. This is setting up your offer. Setting up your offer, three-legged stool, that's why that image is there. It's about resonate, substantiate, and differentiate. Resonate, we've got to get on the wavelength, their wavelength. It makes sense to them. The stuff that we're offering, it works for them. Substantiate, we can back it up, we can prove it. We can give them stories, we can give them ROI, we can give them stuff that shows that we can do what we say. And the differentiators is that it's stuff that makes us different, but what they think is important. Just being different on its own isn't a differentiator, it has to be relevant to them. So again, you know, the best place to be, but first up, sorry, just think about, you know, are my proposals, are my presentations solid? Are they customer focused? And just think, yeah, imagine, so confident that the people, in how you communicate, you don't care what your competitors are doing. Don't matter, yeah, because I know what we're doing and how we are presenting this to our customers. It's bang on. They're going to love it. This can then take us into the next stage, the stage of E for evolve. So they're taking the business to the next level. It's delivering on the promises. It's delivering on the outcomes. It's the stuff that we said that we can do for them. We make sure we do it. Yeah. So that's what we've got to ask ourselves is, do we leave customers to fend for themselves or are we invested in their results? You know, are we going to make sure they get what we've promised? Yeah. So again, I fantasize a little bit about this stuff, but it's, you know, that we're going to put reviews in place with customers. And we know it's just taken for written that we're doing what we said we would. And so those conversations naturally go into, well, yeah, the next projects, the next things we're going to look at are this. That's really where we want to be. So little quiz question. Henry Hoover. Do you know the name of any of his family members? Henry Hoover has a family, doesn't he? So do you know any of the family? Hetty. Correct. Any more family members of Henry Hoover? I'm over the world. I know this for a fact because I worked with the manufacturers. So the manufacturer of the Henry Hoover range, it's Pneumatic International. And I worked with their export team, their international team. And it was great because beforehand, what they're doing is they're flying around, they're working with all distributors, they're working really closely to them, and they're kind of doing a different thing every single place. When we used the framework with them, it was brilliant because it gave them a structure for the way that they were going to work, but it also meant they could take the structure and they could develop things around that and use that to inform the distributors of how they could be more effective in their markets. So I love it. I love this story because it's like a little double win. They got better, but they also used it to get their own people better as well. So that's pretty cool. Having a good solid framework makes a massive difference, I think. So we need to move salespeople from that busy, horrible, wasteful, tiring, unfocused approach. They're using old-fashioned techniques. They're doing the things which push customers away from them. And we need to give them the ability to stop being so confused about what they're actually trying to do and sell. we can do this. So we can move them to where they're helping people because they're preparing, they're planning, they're using good process, they're being more effective. They can flip, follow, and focus, yes, because what they're doing is they're thinking about the customer and they're doing stuff based on genuine customer centricity. And then what we can do is we can give them that clarity in the way that they work. Managers can coach them. The salesperson is dead sure about how it is they need to work. Going back to what I set out at the beginning, for me, that's about having good people doing good things in a good way.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Today podcast with me, your host, Fred Copestake. I hope you've enjoyed what you heard today. If you did, please get in touch and hit subscribe. And remember, you can take the Collaborative Selling Scorecard for free to check out how your sales approach works in today's environment. You'll find it in the show notes.